The No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly radio show and podcast where host Dom Geneva interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. And now, here's your host, Dom Geneva.
Well, good morning, boys and girls. This is Dom, your host, Dom Geneva, host of your No Nonsense Roundtable, 10 o'clock Saturdays every week on WISL, WLEA. And I'd like to remind you, commercial free. So I have to tee up the ball for you on this one because my guest this week is a family friend of ours that we met in London when my daughter went over there for a symposium at Oxford, of all places. And Frances Davis, Professor Frances Davis, was her mentor. And we developed a relationship, a family relationship with the good doctor. And he is a fascinating individual. Not only has he taught at Oxford and Cambridge, but he has been having times as being an advisor to Parliament, and he's been heard all over the world with his talks about mainly social justice and, well, the way things work. And we have these conversations every once in a while, and he is delightful to talk to. He's got a great sense of humor. You have to understand that there's a little bit of difference in the language here, like a truck is a lorry and a loo is a toilet. I mean, literally, this comes into this conversation somewhere. But he is fascinating. I think you're going to enjoy this immensely. And with that, well, here is Professor Frances Davis. So how should I? How should I introduce you here? Let you know. I'm going to, because your background is so extensive and so impressive.
Well, yeah, just old fart is a good one. That's what the kids say.
well, you know, the thing is, so I said to Francesca, I said, well, how did we get to be friends with Frances Davis? I says, what was it? She says, don't you remember? I spent that summer at Oxford. I go, oh, yeah, that's right too. Oxford, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I even made her with my kids swim in the British rivers. So I think we had around for Sunday lunch, and all my kids said, "Right, we're going swimming," and in they went. And yeah, you can't swim in that river anymore thanks to our water policy. So yeah. But anyway.
Oh yeah. We're going to get into some of this stuff because being on different sides of the pond, I like to sort and compare impressions and what life is like, and one of the things that is extraordinary to me is that we have these protests now and say that no kings, no kings for America, no kings. Well, I'm sorry, the guy got elected. Like, what do you want? You know, you just don't vote for next. But what are you going to do? You know, and then you people have had kings for quite a while now. And,
yeah.
And you don't have those no kings protests. I think it's. I think.
Well, I saw actually a friend of mine was out at one of those no kings demos in the US.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking to myself, actually, at the moment, our king is about the only sensible and stable bit of our whole system. It's a kind of like more king. I'm a Democrat, but like at the moment, more king and less politicians. You know, it's like.
Well, the thing is that I'm not a well-read man, but I know Thomas Paine wrote in Common Sense. He said that ostensibly, to paraphrase him, a monarchy doesn't work because sooner or later you get an idiot in the bloodline. And yeah, I mean, the law of averages say sooner or later, and that's kind of happening here with like this guy Mondami in New York City, who's like an avowed communist. Tomorrow is going to be elected to be mayor of New York or not. I mean, like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, but it's interesting on the bloodline, isn't it? So just to my east is one of our national parks, right? And it's a relatively new national park in government terms, but the landscape there has been there for ages, and most of it is owned by about 8 aristocratic families.
Uh-huh.
And I said to one of the senior rangers over there, I was out there hiking, and I said to him, I said, how do they deal? Like, it's exactly with that thing about keeping those families going and keeping it refreshed. And his answer was, strategically, he said, every second or third generation, they marry an American and bring her or him into the family to refresh the genes. And
So
usually the bank account, right? And then
so are you
refloat the family, So.
are you making a political statement about Meghan Markle? Is that what you're trying to do? Actually, is that?
Oh no, no. I was actually just thinking about most of the British aristocrats.
No. That's one of the things we have in common. We have the language, and we have everybody hates Meghan Markle.
Well, someone's doing it. I mean, you know what? Like, if they're a struggling couple, I'd like to struggle with the same income, right? I mean, it'd be like,
well, it was Chris Rock, which is a black comedian. He's really funny. He says, well, the royal family is being criticized because I guess the king said, or somebody in the royal family said, well, how black is the baby going to be? He goes, and they're saying it's so racist. He says, we asked that ourselves. He says, everybody in our family asks, what shade is the baby going to be? He says, and his opinion is not racist at all. It's just a question that you ask, and they could twist anything. So, but I didn't even introduce you yet. I mean, so Francis Davis.
yeah. So
Yeah,
should we
yeah.
go? So, so I'm back doing some stuff at Oxford. So you could just say I'm a professor and I'm a fellow at Oxford at Kellogg College.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how some of these, how some of these families got to be where they were with their wealth. I went to a college that my grad school was Long Island University was the C.W. Post campus, and C.W. Post was the other cereal guy. So apparently, cereal became a big thing. One of the things that we're talking about. Society and things that the way they were and how they are now is that do you know our comedian Bill Maher by any chance?
No.
Okay, Bill Maher. He's a political guy. He's a unabashed comedian. He's an unabashed liberal, but he's very fair. He says that we get into a problem of what they call presentism. Is that something in your vocabulary? Presentism.
Presidentism.
Presentism.
No, tell me about that.
Okay, this is a fascinating concept. It is a concept that in our society today, the people before us should have known better. And if they knew better, then things would be okay. He says you could take that way back. You can take it to any social norm that was popular 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years ago. And if my ancestors didn't do this, we would not be here today. And sort of like you're gonna sue somebody for putting leeches on one of your ancestors because they should have known better. He says, and I came up with this concept, and we'll get back to your introduction in a second. But I think a lot of this, and I know you are a fellow who is deeply ingrained in the social atmosphere of the world. I think one of the things that we have a problem in, and both sides of the pond here, is that people are looking to put blame on people rather than solve problems. And I say it like this: we have social problems that we were born with. There's society's problems that have had been passed down from generation to generation. It is not my fault that happened. Don't blame me for that happening, but it is my responsibility nonetheless to help solve those social problems that I was presented with. So, I mean, here in the United States, we have a debate about most naturally reparations for slavery. Well, I mean, what was the genesis, excuse me, of slavery? Now, I mean, it didn't have anything to do with my ancestors. My ancestors were in Italy at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's my responsibility because maybe redlining was passed down or whatever. Is it my responsibility to fix that? I mean, even back years ago when I was a boy, you would have ads in the paper for employment. It would be help wanted male and help wanted female. I mean, that's our generation. So.
Yeah. No, and well, and it makes sense because that's what people want. But yeah, no, it's when we got a big thing, say, with the Church of England at the moment, which is Church of England should pay reparations because of Atlantic slavery,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the Africans and the Caribbeans are pushing like mad for that inside the church, inside that Church of England. Church of England's got a lot of money. So then some very conservative Catholics have said, well, if you're going to pay reparations to black people, you took all that land from the Catholics before, so we'll have reparations for the Catholics. And then the Indians have popped up, as in the Asians, and said, yeah, there was slavery in the Indian Ocean as well, but that wasn't the Anglicans, that was some other bit of whatever. And so now, like, this is just like this bidding war, like, and it's just crazy, and it's exactly that, you know. Well, I remember hearing a feminist sing a song once, and the chorus was, and she was taking the mick out of other feminists,
Mm-hmm.
and the chorus of the song was, "My straight jacket is better than yours." Yeah, and it was like, you know, feminists going like, no, I'm more oppressed than you are. No, I'm more oppressed than you are. Or there was a famous, do you remember Monty Python?
Mm-hmm.
And they had this sketch, and someone turns, "Are you the Judean People's Popular Front?" "No, we hate them. We're the Popular People's Front of Judea. The Judean People's Popular Front, they're splitters," sort of thing. You know, and it's all this kind of, yeah, dancing on a, yeah, presentism. That's interesting. I think that's because that's a bit like saying, isn't it, that if my dad had stopped me going out on Friday night, I wouldn't have got a hangover.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whereas I went out, I paid for it, I drank too much.
Well, and so I get this. It's sort of like, so I think it boils down to blame. You have to blame somebody. So who do you blame? You blame Adam and Eve. I mean, how far back do you go to blame somebody for a social dysfunction that we have? But here's the thing: are there things that we need to solve, and people that are disadvantaged and they're poor and they need to be taken? Yeah, of course there are. So what do we do? What do we do with that? Let's stop the blame. Let's start doing something. So,
Yeah.
but let's talk a little bit. Let's get more into. We're 17 minutes into this, and I haven't introduced you to.
Sorry, right. Okay. All
but
right. Line under that.
okay,
Don't
but
right.
what's
Leave
your
out the stuff
okay?
about
What's your
the
tell
yeah,
me
go on.
tell my audience what your specialty is. Your specialty is these social issues, and you were, or are you still an advisor to Parliament? I mean, you had a stint,
Yeah,
in that,
so
right?
so so I'm professor of public policy and communities. So I focus on leadership around public service, and then I'm really interested in really complex challenges that governments and businesses face together. So I've done work in inner urban areas in the UK where there's community tensions. I've done work in Rwanda where they had the genocide. I'm currently a governor of a university in Iraq, where many of the students are those that fled ISIS when ISIS went around killing all of the minorities, and especially the
Mm.
Christians in that part of Iraq. So, kind of, I sometimes colloquially say, the more messed up your community is, more likely I'm going to arrive with my research team to try and find out what we can put right and how we can work together to address it. Yeah.
Okay, what is the most amazing or important thing that your research team has come up with so far? I mean, what would you, if you were to tell somebody the one thing that you discovered, or you declare?
I'll tell you, and this is about how mistakes can make huge social transformations. Okay, so I went and we carried out interviews with the elderly people in the villages of Rwanda 20 years after the genocide. 80% of the country's got trauma. There's no psychiatric health services in the country. So you were meeting very vulnerable people. Many they'd lost children, there were orphans, women still with their arms stuck against their body because when their scars had healed, they'd stuck in one place
Oh
up
my
where they
Lord.
tried to defend themselves. And one of the things we couldn't work out was that the Rwandan government was saying, we want we want to set older people as a priority. And then when they made their national strategy for health, none of the financial allocations were being prioritized towards the elderly. And then they said, but look, we put this into the national costing system and this is how it came out. But so they said we want a majority to go to older people, but then none of the final budget lines were for older people. And then this is how we discovered how things can go wrong is the World Health Organization had provided free of charge to lots of poorer countries a special spreadsheet that you could put your data into and work out how your country's health system would get funded, and you could put in your priorities. But deep down, in the first version of this spreadsheet that all these countries have been sent, was an algorithm that said any money that you spend on the old or the disabled is a waste of money, because even when they get better, they won't go back to work and generate taxes for your system. So in this spreadsheet, no matter how many times you put in older people must be a priority, they were definitely going to end up a bottom. So what we found out was that version 1, they realized, the World Health Organization, after 6 months, was wrong. And after 2 years, they'd put it right. And they were now on version 7, which was correct. And you could do a proper costing on it. But by accident, in the Department on Health in Rwanda, they were still using version 1, and no one had rung them up to tell them version 1 was now out of date and was never going to work to do what they were going to do. So here we had tremendous social need that we were unearthing, tremendous personal tales of tragedy, and then a straightforward cock up that was stopping good people do the right thing. And we were able to put that little cock up right, and that changed the whole budgeting system for the whole country for a while after that. So a big revolution from something that we discovered kind of like by mistake working with this broken spreadsheet. Bit geeky, but very strange.
It took a statistician to dig into that, I would imagine. I mean,
Well, do you know who actually found it in the end? I mean, it's a classic, isn't it? So the average age of the team working on the project was about 45, but we had one really, really smart 19-year-old geek who went, I reckon it's an algorithm problem. And he dug around inside and worked it out and came back to us. So it took a 19-year-old to put right what everyone over 40 was getting wrong. So.
Does he ever do freelance work?
Yeah, he's doing very well now, writing a doctorate somewhere.
I could use this guy. Well, you know that goes to one of my concepts is that, and I get into this debate with Francesco all the time, is that you, when you get older, become technologically like disabled. Okay, so when I was young, my parents could not set the time on the VCR. It was flashing 12 all the time because they couldn't change it. Now she derides me because, oh, Dad, you got the thing. I said, Lorenzo's going to do the same thing to you. Okay. When you get old, you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff. You're going to have to find some 20-year-old to figure it out for you. And I think that's very true. Absolutely. I mean, technology is one of these things, and you're right. You got to find that young guy. Actually,
I mean, we have done some other things as well. Where as a result of research, local government bodies changed the whole way that it funds the home care for elderly people. And in another place where there were 2 changes in the national law in relation to the way that contracting out of services to non-profits was designed. So that became more open and fair and just like that. So I think you need the young and you need the old, because otherwise you get data with no wisdom, or wisdom with no tech. So
yeah. I call it every once in a while. I get a chance, even somebody as uneducated as I am, to give a talk at RIT to the business class, and I said there's old hubris and there's young hubris. There's the young guy who says, "Oh, that old fart, he doesn't know what the heck he's doing, blah blah blah. He hasn't been, he doesn't know." And the old guy is like, "Oh, that young guy, he's just coming up. He doesn't know. He hasn't been." And if you can get the both of those to meet someplace in between, you can really do some wonderful things.
Yeah, and I think multi-skilled teams,
Oh yeah,
in any industry, in any sector, unlock loads and loads of value.
yeah.
I mean, a friend of mine, a UK, he's built one of the most successful communications companies in the world from the UK. And he recently had a recruitment drive where he just said, all of the solutions that my teams were coming up with for clients were the same. So he went out and he said, we want you to send a video as your application, but no one who's got a graduate degree is allowed to apply. And he said what he got was a completely different kind of thinking, and it's added another 5% onto the business's progress. So we need all those talents,
So I am in process of writing another book with the woman who is the dean of the School of Business at RIT, and the working title is the 3-day MBA. Okay.
Right.
So what it is the stuff that you learn in college that you need to know, and the stuff they teach you in college you don't need to know, and the stuff that you learn out of college that you couldn't have learned in college. Okay.
Yeah.
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, that's a good thing to know. The ability to do the calculus for a linear regression is not something I need to know, right? I mean, you got people to do that for you. I mean, the president doesn't know how to fly an F-16. Okay, he's got people to do that, right?
Yeah.
So we go through this analysis of different things you need to know. I'll tell you about my customer service. I've repeated this on the show like 100 times. Is my 7% rule. So when I had my car dealerships, we had excellent reputation, but
Yeah.
we didn't make everybody happy. So when I first went in business, I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm worrying and worrying and worrying about how to make this one customer happy. And then he finally came up with my 7% rule. My 7% rule, people argue with the percent, but never the concept. And I'll clean up the language for radio. You find out that 7% of the 7% of the people in the world are either crazy or mean. And you don't have to you don't have to sort them out. They're crazy or they're mean, and yeah, and just forget about it. I mean, every once in a while, somebody would come up to me from the service department and say, "Hey, listen, we have a real 7%er out there." I mean, some people think the world is flat. You can go online. They think the world is flat. You're not going to convince them that the world isn't flat. There's some people that just think that they want to take advantage of you. That's all there is. They were beaten as children. So I don't know. But you forget about that and you work on the 93%. And that's one of those things you learn. Yeah, I didn't learn that in college. I learned that from getting beat up by people that I don't know what their intent is, but it's not like recyclable. So you don't have to put it in one. You don't have to sort out the plastics from the trash. Just throw them all out. So might sound mean, but that's the way life is.
Yeah, no, and it's true, isn't it? And those kinds of people, you could spend as much time with one as 10 good new customers.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, and so you lose everything else that flows from it as well. So
yeah, and that's it has to do with connecting with people. Did you ever do you know Frederick DeBoer by any chance?
I don't know.
Okay, so this fellow, this is a great book to read. He wrote a book, and it's called "How the Elites Ate the Social Justice System." And I had him on the show. He's a PhD like you, and let me just check that exactly that's the title. Yeah, "How Elites Ate the Social Justice Movement," and you would be very interested in this. I interviewed him a while back, and he wrote this book about how the social justice system has been taken over by academic elites and managed not by the people that it is affecting. They have very little input to what's being done. They're raising money, and the money's being thrown places where it's not doing any good. I mean, just in short.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny. I had a woman on my show a while back, Carol Crossett, and she is our age, well, my age. I think I'm older than you. And she was talking about the social justice movement back in the '60s. And she says, "Oh, I was involved with that back in the '60s." I said, "Oh my!" I said, "That's interesting." She says, "Yeah, I taught people how to get arrested." I said, "You taught people how to get arrested?" This woman's like 4'11". She goes, "Yeah, because our philosophy was that of Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And basically, to paraphrase what she's saying, our idea is you gum everything up. You make it so that the garbage doesn't get collected. The people aren't paying to get on the bus. There's none of this throwing rocks and stones and Molotov cocktails." She says that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You don't get people's support. And I think that's very true. I see a lot of organizations here. I won't name any of them, but you see where the founders of them are getting millions of dollars. They're buying, $1 million homes for themselves and whatever. The money comes in, and they don't know, and who knows where it goes. And some of these other bigger organizations, they hold all these beautiful galas with the tuxedos and the gowns and whatever. They rake in the money, and where is this money going? So.
Yeah, and I recently I went to visit a high school, and I met some of the students there, and they were telling me that as a result of doing some work with elders in their city, these Christian students, they got to know the Jewish community in the city, and they discovered that in the Jewish cemetery, the public cemetery, because of cuts in the council funding, all of the toilets had been removed.
Oh
So when
my.
these genocide survivors went down to bury their dead, there was nowhere for them to go. So these kids in the local Christian school launched a campaign called Lose for Jews, and it cost nothing. And by the time they'd finished, the local regional government had put the toilets back into the Jewish cemetery. And like you say, no
Yeah.
$300,000 salary,
Yeah.
no overheads, just some great passionate kids going. We're going to get on the side of these Holocaust survivors. So quite impressive, really. So
Well, I have to do a little bit of interpretation here for people that don't know, and there might be, 3 or 4 people of the 10,000 people listening that lose means toilets.
yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah.
Lose for Jews is not not
Yeah,
lose.
it's
Yeah, it's like, like a lift in an elevator. Yeah, that's
yeah. No. It's yeah. It's toilets for the Jewish community. Yeah. So
Well, the thing that's disturbing, quite frankly, is you see this thing with Charlie Kirk that happened, last month or whatever it was. I mean, that is disturbing. If you listen to his rhetoric and whatever, it's a very conservative Christian rhetoric, and all he's doing is debating you. He's debating an idea that he has that he wants to express, and I mean, the sad thing about it is that he gets shot, and people are celebrating. There's a certain amount of that 7%, who are celebrating. Maybe it's 2%. 1% or 0.5%, whatever it is, celebrating that he got shot. I mean that's ridiculous. That's the antithesis to free speech.
yeah, and I think there's a lot more anger around, and I don't know at a distance it looks like there's some of those things in the States, but here, if I walk out into some neighborhoods, you got big segments of the community think the whole system has ignored them.
Hmm.
For the first time ever, you can walk through whole streets and there'll be an English flag or a British flag on every single house outside. And I think there's kind of like a wild anger at the failure of the system, and that's about elites, and it's about some of the parties, and it's about some of the way that people are treated at work. And I think if anger's not got somewhere to go, people
Mm.
start saying strange things and doing strange things, and you can see it, isn't it? I mean, so whether you like President Trump or not, attempting to shoot him at a rally is not acceptable. Whether you like Charlie Kirk or not, taking out a gun is, in a context like that, is unacceptable. And just particularly like you say, his MO, as I understand it, was to go around and debate anybody that would meet with him on any subject, and provoke a conversation. And that's better than getting angry and doing nothing, isn't it? So
Hmm. Well, I
yeah.
think the pendulum's swinging the other way with some of this too. I think it seems like the younger people are, um, uh, and it happens. I mean, it goes too far one way, then it goes too far the other way. I think the younger people are getting a little bit more spiritual. The Catholic Church seems to be doing better here in the United States. There are more younger people that are getting interested in it, and somebody like Charlie Kirk was very religious. He wasn't Catholic quite yet, but that's one of the things that people are looking at. They're saying, well, he's Christian, and Christians are this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's just a crazy situation.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's an interesting. There was a new report came out here recently, published by our Bible Society, and they'd done lots of empirical research, and they argued that there was something happening across all the mainline denominations they called the quiet revival, and the
mhm,
people coming to church for the first time. So they're coming from families that haven't been going to church. It's young men in the 18-24 age bracket.
mhm.
So, so if that's true, and anecdotally that would look to be true, it's young men finding a fresh meaning, and young men finding a meaning, and what we've known in recent decades is when young men don't have a meaning and a purpose or a job or a father, or a good mentor, that's when they're open to being captured by a terrorist group on one side, a violent group or another side, or the drugs people in the middle. So yeah, so hopefully there's a shift coming. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are having second thoughts, and I think I said it before too. Is that I think it was before we got on the air. Is that this organization that I found that I really like is called Women uh, uh, Feminists. feminists choosing life in New York, and there's a group of women, and they are not rock throwers. They are not violent protesters. They're not the type of people that would go in front of Planned Parenthood and protest there. But they are a group of women that are have the same basic tenet in their philosophy of life, is that life is precious and should be preserved and celebrated and encouraged. And they say, well, it's just by the name too. So we have freedom of choice here. That's the thing. That's abortion. You have freedom of of having an abortion. Sometimes right up, especially here in New York, right up to the moment of birth. And they say, well, having a family is a choice too. Having a family is a choice too. So um, it's an encouraging thing. I think the trend is going in that way. Yeah, that's certainly something that is on the top of people's mind. But before I forget, too, little perceptions of what's going on. So London is no longer an English city. It's now overrun with everybody in burqas, and even men have to wear burqas now. And you just have all these people running around, and nobody speaks English, and whatever. Is that pretty much what's happening in London? I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard that said by
yeah.
American
Hold
friends.
on a second. You had
Uh,
to hesitate for a second before
no,
you
well,
answered that.
so London's very multicultural. London's very multilingual. I think it's up to about 150 languages. But is it being run? Are we overrun by mullahs and imams? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Um, you know, I think that runs. It's about 12% of the city come from those communities, and they're concentrated in the east of the city. And in fact, some completely new data that came out day before yesterday from the government shows that that bit of the city is the poorest part of London by a
Ah,
long time. Um, and I can tell you, when I'm sitting in Southampton, which is kind of like British version of Baltimore, big maritime city. I'm sitting here this morning, and if you go into the bit of the town where the Asian community lives, it's the only place where there's no food poverty, because if you're in trouble, you can go to any mosque or any Sikh temple or any Hindu temple and they'll feed you. And violent crime in those neighborhoods is lower. And the levels of volunteering to become a foster parent rather, are higher. So I think even like with any group of people, like I bet you in the old days, everyone would say the Irish are all like this, the Italians are all like that. In any group of people, there are great people, there are fantastic people, there are those who are volunteering, those who are brilliant mums and dads, and there's some bad apples, and the bad apples are the ones that end up getting covered. And particularly at the moment, I think, I mean, without overdoing it, if you're a Muslim kid that gets in trouble is going to end up on the front page of a national newspaper and is probably going to have a global profile in no time at all. But in Birmingham, our second city, 2 weeks ago, there was a young Sikh woman gang raped by some
ooh,
white lads, and it barely even made it onto the regional media, let alone
mm,
the national media. So there is something here, I think, also about we can't really get our head round the level of crime that is a bit generic. So last year we had 22,000 violent attacks of women, 7,000 at knife point,
mm.
and only three or four of those might make national press. And usually those are the ones where someone who's a Muslim's involved. So there's something here about how we're going to get the reporting right, how we're going to get the spread right. It's not just London. We've got to get beyond London. But no, I don't know. I went to West London the other day, and the bit of West London I was with was fine houses, 100% white, and they were selling Wagyu beef for some absolutely amazing price in the local butchers. And then right up the other end of town, you'll get those Asian communities. So like it's a big place. It's a mixed up place. So I think no one voice can dominate London. Not even a mayor, not even a local crazy, a 7%er from one of those communities.
So, we just went through this thing with the election, and of course, the No Kings movement. We don't have kings, and You know, to me, these protests, I like what do you, there's elections coming up, you know, and just encourage people to vote a different way. But I don't see the end run of some of these protests, you know, exactly what they want. I mean, what they want to happen. So, and of course, right now the government is shut down, which is an awfully interesting thing, and you can't get some services and whatever because one party is entrenched and the other party is entrenched, and that's all there is to it. I think the founding fathers here had some type of an idea that there was a common sense, you know, human nature being as it is. There was something that was going to compel people to run for office because they thought they would help the community, and it's turned into this fist fight, knife fight between people. I mean, the days of Ronald Reagan getting together with Tip O'Neill are gone. And I think as a marketing guy, I look at this statistically and just as a theory in that years ago, it was a common consensus that made people vote one way or another. Now it's a varied number of groups that possibly have nothing in common with one another that are being stitched together to get to 51% of the vote. And I think that's why you get such a polarization in some of these states and whatever. I mean, take a look at the abortion thing. In New York, you can have an abortion up to the moment of birth. I mean, and
Yeah.
I can see where somebody would say, and I don't agree with it, that it's at one point it's just a clump of cells, and so it's not a human being. But you can't tell me, you know, our grandson was born. He was 4 pounds 11 ounces. He was you know, like 10 days early or whatever. You can't tell me that's not a human being. And
Yeah.
at some point, there's a common humanity that we would have that would say, well, everybody can agree to this, but we can't.
Yeah. And I think the law here is that 24 weeks. So the baby may be terminated till 24 weeks. But there was a big change just recently where the most left and the most liberal elements of the main governing party, which is the Labour Party, which is like the Democrats, they drove through an amendment on a piece of criminal justice legislation. And so what they did was they decriminalized abortion. So a woman having abortion now, it's no longer against the law, even if that is the day before birth. But what can still be prosecuted is the person providing the abortion.
Okay.
And so, but what lots of people are saying is that effectively legalizes abortion on demand until the day of birth, because the woman knows that she's taking no legal risk in doing it. And if somebody else gets sued, like a doctor or somebody else, kind of like she's out and scot free. So that debate is coming our way, and there is a big campaign to still to liberalize abortion here. And I know our decision makers have been taking grief from people around Vice President JD Vance
Mm.
on this issue. So that's a live issue here as well. Similar sorts of patterns and demands. Yeah.
Well, the perception I think here in the United States is that, well, look at Europe. Europe has all these, you know, well, no. You're how many weeks or whatever, it's 23 weeks or whatever. Europe has more restrictive laws than we do in a lot of states. In some states here, um, um, they're very restrictive, and some are very liberal. Do you know David K. Johnson by any chance?
I don't know. Tell
Okay,
me.
David K. Johnson. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. God, Nita got him to come on my show, and he was Trump's biographer. Hates Trump, but he was Trump's biographer. And he was saying, well, if the Republicans get in power, they're going to make contraception itself illegal. It's like that's not, no, I'm not really worried about that. I said to him, I said, well, you know, how about, you know, this thing where where you can abort the baby up to the day of birth. He says, yeah, but that would never happen. You know what? If it would never
Exactly.
happen, then why not have a law against? Well, you know, nobody legally, you know, nobody morally would do that. Stop, you know, stop.
What about at the other end of life? Because in our parliament they've just legalized they call it assisted dying.
Oh yeah.
So if you are on the terminal track with your illness, however you define that, and that's a debate, then you'll be able to go now to your doctors and ask them to, so a bit like I think Canada's had that for a while. Is that legal anywhere in the States? Is that around?
No, well, I guess they're going to come up for a vote or something just recently here in New York for that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So the feminists choosing life, they're against that, and they're politicking against that. I mean, they're for life in all different aspects
Yeah.
of it. So
Yeah. No, and I think that's been very controversial, not least because you discover in the process of the debate there are some people in our parliament who they would just like to introduce that as a right at any point.
mhm.
Yeah, irrespective of your illness or anything. And it's certainly the case that there are teenage kids who've taken advantage of laws like that in Belgium.
Well, but kind of leave off with this. I heard once years ago from somebody who made a comment. I don't know. It might have been his own thoughts or whatever. But he says democracies have a tendency of collapsing upon themselves
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
when everything is a right and everything becomes okay for people to do, the whole system just falls down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Could very well be true. I mean, you take a look at the rights of. I mean, the big deal was used to be same-sex marriage, and we got past that. Okay, so what's the
Yeah.
next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And some of these things become a slippery slope. You
Yeah.
get to the point. Like I said, I'm just absolutely appalled at that you could abort a baby at 9 months. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
there are people that would do that for, well, it's not the sex, or I got mad at my husband, or, whatever, or we lost a job or whatever. I mean, that to me, that's just morally apprehensible.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But I think in lots of these places as well is that you get government overreach, and then when government's overreaching, it starts to underperform and things start to go wrong. And like, I mean, I know we were, beforehand we were messaging about immigration, right? And so we had our Brexit vote, and those campaigning for Brexit said that this would reduce the number of immigrants. And then Mr. Johnson got into power,
Hmm.
and he noticed that after all the Polish folk had gone home to Poland, he now had nobody to staff up the hospitals. So he gave visas to 1 million Commonwealth citizens. So now we have even more immigrants in country, and that's the ones who've been allowed in legally. And then we have a flow of thousands each week coming in illegally on the small boats. And there we simply don't have a system that can cope with processing all of their
Right.
applications. So we just have thousands of them scattered in hotels, normally dropped off in poor places, because that's where you got an empty hotel. And then innocently the powers in Westminster turn around and go like, well, how could it be then that local people don't like having 500 people dropped off in the middle of their neighborhood? And how can it be that these people have not yet been processed? And of course, it's just government overreach into a whole space, and then the system collapses behind it. And I don't know if you noticed on the news the other day, we had a situation where some prisoners were let out, and one guy who'd been arrested a week before for raping a young girl got let out by mistake. And this guy was due to be deported to Ethiopia because he'd come on one of the illegal
Mhm.
boats into the country. And he stood outside the prison for an hour, banging on the door, saying, "Let me back in, because I want to be deported." And the prison officers gave him £70 and told him to go to the station and go away.
Oh, jeez.
And so he was off, and then they had to get the police out for 3 days until they found him again. Absolute chaos. And I think that's when government. I mean, there's a really important role for government in building the common good and stepping in where the safety net fails and things like that. But when you get overreach and system collapse, then everything breaks down, trust goes away, and that's why
Yep.
you get anger. That's why you get anger, and people demonstrations on the streets here the other night with pro and anti-immigrant groups literally clashing in front of one of these hotels that houses asylum seekers, and kind of civic unrest and young families not feeling safe to go out that night. So the local restaurants, the takings go down. That means some kitchen porter or chef is going to lose a job if that happens too often, isn't it? So these things when they go wrong, the whole system starts to creak. And it feels here at the moment we've got a real creaking system. And
Well,
the only bit that's not creaking is the king. So I'm quite keen on kings at the moment, despite the fact that I'm a Democrat. So
yeah. Well, the thing, I mean, here with the Biden administration, we have all these people coming across the border, and they said there's nothing you can do about it until you pass legislation, and it's going to be inconstitutional if you do this, that, the other thing. And Trump is like, well, I kind of believe in the Constitution, but I'm going to kind of do what I want until I get stopped, and it's been stopped. And one of the things that a lot of people are contending with this is that our census, the number of representatives that we have in Congress, are based upon a census of people in a certain geographic area. But it doesn't have to be citizens. It's people. That's what they do. They go door to door and they say, how many
ah,
people are in this building? How many people are in that building? So taking a vast amount of illegal immigrants and putting them into one congressional district, okay, can increase the number of representatives that the state gets. And so it's to the benefit of the party that let them in. So,
wow.
yeah, okay. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and,
That's
and and so I think it was, and so these governors that were getting these illegal immigrants, like Texas or whatever, they started busing them to the states that weren't getting them, like New York. I mean, the governor of Florida starts sending these people to New York. Now, all of a sudden, New York's got a problem. It's kabuki theater. I think the funny thing is this auto pen thing with Biden. There's a claim that he really wasn't cogent and coherent. Which, if you looked at the debate that he had, it was really amazing. He says somewhere in the debate he goes, and we finally beat Medicare. We finally
yeah, we saw that.
finally beat Medicare, the guy. So the funny thing is that I guess there's a hall of the Hall of Honor in the White House someplace, and I guess it's between the West Wing or something like that, and they have pictures of all the presidents. They have these black and white photographs, and it goes from Lyndon Johnson and Kennedy and this other stuff, and in the place of Biden, Trump put a picture of the auto pen. where,
Oh
where he
wow.
doesn't have to be there to sign it. So who signed all these pardons and stuff? Hunter Biden. Yeah, Hunter Biden is getting $50,000 a month to be on the board of directors of Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company. Yeah, Hunter Biden. Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, that smells good.
Yeah, no, I think it's
Yeah. So you guys got your own problems with Prince Andrew here. That's he's going to be living. He's going to be living in one of those hotels you're talking about pretty soon. So
yeah,
with
well, I think he's going out to the east of the country and he'll be funded by the king and live in a house on Sandringham, which is the king's estate on the east of England, but that's owned by him personally. And but the word now is that he so yesterday his very last title was taken away, which was Vice Admiral of the Royal Navy. So he is now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And the expectation now is that without the cover of the royal family and without the support of government
ah
around him,
yeah.
somebody was saying on the media here yesterday, they reckon within 5 years he'll be in an American jail because somebody will now start extradition applications in order to get him to come and to say if he's innocent. Still, what did he know? What did he see? Who did he meet? And of course, I mean, I think that then creates a fresh lot of pressure on some of those who have been resisting letting Epstein papers go in other directions, and maybe some who think that they're free of whatever it is they were alleged to have got free. So that's a tragedy, and I think it was a tragedy. I think for another reason, which is, I mean, it's a tragedy for
Yeah.
anyone that got harmed and everything as well. But the king, the king's had cancer. The king's sprung back quite well. Prince William's wife's had cancer. She's come back from that. And so there you've got this family. They kind of come back from these setbacks. I've heard lots and lots and seen lots of correspondence of them as a result of that experience being brilliant with the families of cancer survivors in
Mm-hmm.
private and in public. And even my father recently passed away from prostate cancer, and the letter he got from the palace was just
Oh, that's
extraordinary,
wonderful.
just before his 60th wedding anniversary. So you've got all of those positive things happening. The king was out the other day for the first ever time to pray with the Pope, the first ever time that in 800 years this may have happened. And all you could see on the front page of the local newspaper was Andrew's troubles and Andrew's troubles and Andrew's this. So I think the palace is hoping it will all go away. My expectation is it's going to stay on the front pages because the whole system will now come for him and will want to take him down fully. So
Well,
yeah, so strange times.
it seems from this side of the world that they're loved. I mean, the royal family is just loved. I don't understand our obsession with it. I mean, I mean, in the morning, CBS News will lead off with what's happening with the royal family. It's like, okay, just that's nice. I'd like to know about the government shutdown before I find out about about Meghan Markle and what who she ticked off today. I mean, that's all right, but there you go. So one of the things before we go, because we only have actually we're way over time. I'm probably going to use this whole interview on the show. Usually, but what I've been doing lately is on my show, I have been I moved to a new station. I'm doing this commercial free. So
Right,
nobody ever listened to a radio podcast or whatever and said, "Oh, I would listen to that, but it needs more commercials." So
right.
what I do is I take a segment to hawk my book for all these good people here in the U.S. who are who are getting taken for a ride when they buy a car and they don't even know it. And the other thing is to have a segment that we honor a veteran, and we've been taking interviews, maybe 5, 6, 7, maybe 10-minute interviews of veterans, and their stories, because the people who go and make a sacrifice like that and to defend their country deserve to be heard and known and celebrated. And I was wondering, maybe in the next week or two you might be able to um, refer a couple of people there in the UK that have been in the military. Now, one of the things, I mean, there's not that many of them left, but the World War II vets in particular. I mean, this was an existential threat for you guys, a lot more than it
Yeah,
was for the United States. And I mean, your World War II vets, they have to have some stories. I have to say.
yeah. Well, I mean, my grandfather was World War One as well, so that
Wow.
in the trenches, injured under fire. Um, but yeah, no, I'll reach out because I've over the last 10, 15 years, every year I've done a fundraising event for veterans with post-traumatic stress with mental health challenges after their service. And where I'm sitting, we're 15 minutes from Portsmouth, which is like our Annapolis. And so there's a large number of the naval veterans living there, and lots of support services because those guys are much more likely to live in poverty, have a drink problem, have mental health
Mhm.
challenges, have all sorts of challenges when they exit the service. But it's a good thing, we have this military. I don't know if you have it in the States. But we have a new thing here called the military covenant, which is that the public services make an enhanced offer to you. And so one of the lovely things about my father's recent illness was the guys from the Air Force appeared next to his bed and said, "You spent 3 years in the Air Force, and so we've come to offer you the enhanced level of support to you and your family while you're ill." And it was great because you could see Dad sit up in a
Yep.
fresh way because his service was being honoured. So I think what you're doing there is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I'll ask around and see who I can find.
Well, I'm starting to get involved with one particular group. As a matter of fact, it's very interesting. The fellow that got me interested in this was a Marine stationed at the Reagan White House, and
Wow.
he has all these stories of Ronald Reagan and treating him like he was a grandson and whatever. There were 250 people that applied to be that fellow, that Marine that would greet and protect the president. As a matter of fact, he tells a story about being in London. He says it's 2:00 in the morning. He's out there. He says he sees somebody coming out of the embassy. He says, "Oh, geez, that looks like the president." And he and his buddy go over there and say, "Mr. President, why are you up?" He says, "I'm hungry. You guys want breakfast?" He says, and in front of Reagan, wakes up the cook, has him cook breakfast at 2:00 in the morning. He says he's spending time with these two Marines. He says he was like a grandfather. He was absolutely like
That's
a grandfather.
amazing.
But he's running an organization in support of veterans, and maybe we can get these veterans together somehow. Somehow with some stories between them or something like that. That would be really kind
That's
of
a good idea. Yeah.
It would really be a neat thing to do. Well, thank you again, and like I said, God bless you for what you do, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for being in touch. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.